Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining the joint SIG session. So this session is, all the SIG chairs will be in this session, and they will be discussing the changes to the SIG guidelines. So I will hand over the floor to Joy Chen. Joy Chen, please, if you could brief the SIG guidelines. Thanks.
Okay. Hello, everyone. On behalf of the SIG chairs and co-chairs, I want you to know that you are welcome to this session. This session is primarily talking about the SIG guideline review. And in the past that we have spent a lot of the times, and thanks to the APNIC staff, the secretariats, to help us to really form the guidelines and having the finalized version today here to present it to you. So here with me, among other than myself, that I have Beatrice on the policy stack, AFTAB from the routing security stack, and the Billy from the NIR stack. So together that we are presenting to you on the SIG guideline elections. So allow me to share my screen. Okay. For the SIG guideline on the SIG elections, I want you to understand that the recommendations from the SIGs and from the executive committee, the ECs, that we have come to the recommendation for the SIG elections. The first thing is that we are moving SIG election to online. This is, of course, due to the pandemic, and also the trend going, everything is going virtual. So this is the one thing that we are moving into the online. The second is that we are using the same guideline voting systems as the APNIC, EC, and the NRO and C elections. So this is not a new invention, that we're using the same voting systems together with the SIG election. And the third recommendation is really we are adopting the same criteria as the NRO and C online election for the consistency with the process. So basically, these are the three things that we are following in our guideline for your review. The nomination is really managed by the APNIC secretariats, and any individual residing in the Asia Pacific region may be nominated. And of course, this is a self-nomination also permitted. And we're gonna be adopting the same eligibility criteria as the voter, okay? So, and the nominees will be invited to provide a recorded video as the candidate statement. This is, again, following the same guideline and the same practice with the others, so that we'll be able to review with all the votings on the conference website. The period will be open 5 weeks before the APNIC conference and closed 4 weeks after the initial pause. And the voting eligibility, which I think is the most important thing, there's two criteria to vote. The first one is that you have to be registered for the current conference. That's the conference that's holding the election, with the registration from the submitted before the start of the current conference. And the second criteria is to register and attend at least one of the past 8 conferences, the APRICA or the APNIC standalone conference. And that's not including the current conference that we are doing the election. So these two criteria are the must-know ones that we want to make sure that people understand and follow that. And so the voting period and the demonstration will be online voting, as we said earlier, and it will be closed at the beginning of the APNIC general meeting. And the administration will be handled by the APNIC Secretariat staff. And the election results and the announcement will be handled on the website, and also as well as published on the conference website, as well as the AGM. Okay. And so coming up in our next APNIC 52, the chair elections will be having the policy SIG, we have the NIR SIG and the cooperation SIG. The co-chair elections will be on the routing security SIG. So that's it. That's pretty much the guideline that we have. And I want to kind of like go back to this page as to showing you that the recommendation for the SIG elections is the 3 that's on the screen. Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, my MC, are you still there? If there's anything that you want to add or summarize, or if there's any other comments from my chairs and co-chairs. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, Joy. Thanks so much for presenting the criteria, eligibility criteria for the nominations and voting in SIG elections, online elections. Any comments from the other chairs, other SIG chairs?
Good evening. No, I don't think there will be any comments because we've discussed this before presenting it. So I think all the chairs and co-chairs have said everything they had to say so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Bertrand. So this is an opportunity for the community. As Joy mentioned, there will be chair and co-chair elections for different SIGs at the next conference. So the elections will be moving online, and we have to prepare for the online elections. So this is your opportunity to put forward your comments on the eligibility criteria for voting plus nomination as well. But if no comment, no questions or no comments, that's okay as well.
Well, I think that on behalf of all the chairs and co-chairs, I think I want to say again in front of everybody that we did put in a lot of the effort and a lot of discussion has been held in the past. So this is the consensus, and we're very happy to be the chairs and co-chairs at this terms, and hopefully that we can continue the good tradition. And thanks a lot to the APNIC staffs and secretariats especially for helping us to moving forward.
And thank you to the chairs as well. Thank you.
I have one question.
After, is it that you?
Yes, that's me.
Okay.
So I have one question regarding the process. So once, assuming once we move into the face-to-face meeting, we will still be doing this online voting system. So it's a question towards the secretariat that what measures do you have in place to make sure that no one can play the system? Because it is not a EC election where only a member can vote, any registered entity can vote. So and APNIC meetings are free to attend by any member. So what are the measures you have in place before we say that we are going ahead with this one?
Thank you, Aftab. So we will take that's a good question. We will take the same measures that we are taking for the NRO NC elections. If we go back to the normal mode of having a conference physically, then we will be implementing the same measures that I believe this has been discussed. I'm not part of that group that discussed the NC election procedures and etc. But we are trying to make sure that the process is consistent between SIG elections and NC elections. So the measures taken there will be applied here as well. But if any of the other APNIC staff here who are part of that process could explain it, most welcome, please do it.
So Paul has a question, so I would like to answer to that. So if, for example, right now I can register as many people as I want using email addresses to attend the APNIC meeting, and they can all vote for the candidate I like. Because the registration doesn't cost anything. And can still the vote towards the candidate I like. If that answers your question.
Thanks, Aftab. I thought in my mind, it's the second of that sub bullet points on the screen here that is intended to avoid that, and that's that the person needs to have registered and attended a past meeting.
Yep. So past 8 meetings. So that's what I'm saying. I can bring people. So that's how you game, right? So previously, whoever was in the room, who has made the effort to come and join the meeting, because that has a cost value associated with it in the past, was able to vote. So that's why what I'm trying to understand, if what other measures, I mean, this is what we came up with, the criteria we set, the chairs and the co-chairs discussed in detail. And this is the criteria we tried to set to make sure that there is no gaming in place. But I'm just asking the Secretariat that what measures they can put in place to avoid this and this to happen.
I'm not sure that any measures can be put in place beyond what's being suggested here, unless I misunderstand the question, Aftab. And these are the proposed criteria. You seem to be saying, and it's probably it's probably quite a good question. You seem to be asking whether this is enough, and pointing out that someone can still game the system in some way by some interpretation of that term, simply by registering people who have registered in one of the past 8 meetings. So it seems that you think that criteria is not enough to prevent.
That's what I'm trying to understand, if this is enough, or we need to add something more to make sure that we are covering our backs in that manner, I would say.
Well, in a virtual meeting, how do you know if the person was there last time or the time before? It's with the email address that they've been using. So unless the villain has access to the other people's email addresses, which they're not supposed to, I don't see how, unless, well, you can ask your friends to register for one session and then use their email address on the next one to vote. Yeah, well, I don't know.
This is what I was saying, that if it is easier for me to convince 50 people who attended the past 8 meetings, because the registration list is public, that they register and give me the registration ID, rather than bring 50 people to a physical event where they can vote in person with the raise of hand. That's what I was trying to say.
I wouldn't give you my registration ID nor my email address to use it.
It's not about you or me, Bertrand. I'm just saying that there is a possibility. Should we have another measure in place to avoid that possibility or not?
If I may step in, I think that there's 2 things I want to feedback. Number one is that when we were discussing this process and the eligibility and stuff like that, there's different questions that's being raised, and we finally come to the consensus that presenting as it is. So, but this is not a new invention. This is really following some of the online election that has happened in other places, within and outside of the APNIC arena. So this is not a new thing, and I'm sure that a lot of the details about that how people may be gaming that. It's not impossible. And I think I understand what you're saying, that when people really want to kind of like abuse this election, that it's not like it's bulletproof. But I rather trust that people who wants to do this election are having the strength and the spirit to really participate. That's one thing. The other thing is that because it's not a new invention on the election, I'm sure some of the measurements that people are talking about, that's being continued discussing. And we can, keep our eyes and ears open to see that if there's other measurements that people elsewhere can take when they are doing the online election, we can very well adopt some of this and adjust our criteria as time goes. In another word, that if there's good things that we can take it into our system to make the system better, I'm sure the APNIC staff, the secretariats, as well as we chair and co-chairs would be happy to adopt that. So if we're talking about the different ways that people can really abuse the system to game in the system, we can probably figure out there's more things that people can do to this. So above my comments.
Thank you. Sunny, any comments on Aftab's requests?
Sorry, as Paul said, no, we noted the question. That's a good point as Aftab raised, and we will look into it and come back to the SIG chairs with some suggestions maybe.
It could be just a process in place where secretaries say, "Oh, we can do this," and make that more transparent. So, and just to reiterate, whatever you are seeing on the screen came out after a consensus between all the chairs and the co-chairs. So there is no objection.
Yeah, Aftab, but do you have any suggestion? I know it's your point, but do you have any suggestion how we can stop the people gaming the system? We will definitely look into it and see what we can do. But any suggestions here, or from anyone else, not only you, but anyone else who are participating in this session?
Not at this point of time, but I'm happy to share more on the same mailing list we have been discussing things on.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't stop the process, I would say. Maybe if the secretary can set aside a timeline that they can come back in 2-3 X number of weeks, and then we can move on rather than just waiting for this for endlessly.
Definitely. Okay, noted. Thanks, Aftab. Any comments or any questions from others? Sanjay is saying, maybe you can read as well, but he's saying we will observe the data the same way when we implemented Big Pulse for the EC election.
I quite disagree on this EC election. EC elections are very, very strict in that manner. Only the members can vote, and it's through the portal, APNIC, My APNIC portal. To access the My APNIC portal, there are multiple roadblocks to get the voting rights and everything. So it's hard to compare the two. But I said I'm not contesting the premises at all. I'm just saying if there is any possibility to make it better, that's it.
May I suggest that because this guidelines really comes from many discussions among the chairs and co-chairs. So if there's any additional measurements that we can put in place, I'm sure the secretariats as well as the chairs and co-chairs will be happy to adopt. And but can we maybe leave this as is now? And like Aftab suggests, maybe after 2-3 weeks to see if there's any other measurements that we can put that in there and take it from there. I don't know if this is a valid proposal to everyone, or should we move on or hold on to this? What what's next.
I agree with you.
Thank you. So shall we conclude that we are kind of like moving forward with the guideline as it's reviewed today? And if there's other valid measurements, suggestions from APTAP or others, that within the next 2 weeks, that we can try to put that in place. Is that a good idea from the Secretariat's point of view on the session for this review?
we will. Yes, we will discuss in the next week or so, and we will, if we come up with any other measurements, we will discuss with you, with the SIG chairs. Yeah.
Thank you.
I agree.
Okay, if there's no other comments or input on this, we're gonna, I guess, back to MC.
Yeah. Thanks, Joy, and thanks everyone, Bertrand, Aftab, and everyone else joined the session. As discussed, we will review this internally, and we will come back to you in next fortnight, maybe, with any measurements that we think can be applied to these guidelines, to this criteria. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining it. And we have one more day of Apricot APNIC conference tomorrow. Tomorrow is the AGM, annual general meeting. So please join the AGM tomorrow. And it starts at the same time, 2 o'clock UTC +8. Thank you so much for now.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Bye-bye.